Hello, 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 it's Sydney Rose and I'm coming to you from my new art studio building thing. It's a space where I'm gonna keep stuff for my business and where I might can make videos. It's not super pretty, but it's mine, I'm happy with it, and now I got a space that's a lot easier than my kitchen table to actually make artwork on. I only got electricity in here since, the last time I was working with a bunch of camping lights, if you remember my first kiln video. So yeah, check that out if you haven't seen it. It was a ride. So here's my disclaimer. If you think that will make you uncomfortable, anything to do with blood will make you uncomfortable, definitely just don't watch this video. Still subscribe and watch my next video, or watch one of my previous videos where I'm not doing something so spooky, scary skeletons, alty artist like vibes. But yeah, that's my disclaimer. So if that's gonna bother you, just go ahead and skip this video. You're not bothering me. Love you. Also, this is not a how-to video. Definitely do not do what I've done in this video. This is, technically I'm a professional artist, but now I'm gonna say, do as I say, not as I do. Don't do the things I did in this video. I collected my own blood. I didn't use anything else, but I definitely probably did not do it the most right way, but it's okay. So just don't do anything that I've done in this video. This is for entertainment purposes only, all the things. So I'll get better at talking to a camera one day. I think I've said that in like every video so far, but I've been collecting my own blood for about a month, whether or not just maybe I got a cut here and there and I just kept it with me just in case. It's not all just blood. I also added some watercolor paint into this, so it's a little bit of a mixture of both. So we'll see. It was carmine watercolor paint. So we'll see how it works. I've seen a whole bunch of other stuff and I've done a bunch of research on it that painting with blood is kind of like watercolor, so I thought it would mix well, but we'll see how it goes. But I guess that's my whole intro, and this is my bottle of blood. And that's my little bit of ASMR after the strawberry intro. I finally got lighting in the building and we got electricity now, so I actually am firing a cup in the kiln as well right now. So super excited. And I got my ring light to add a little bit of extra light on my table. I am going to be painting this today. I'm gonna do a transfer just to make it easier and doing it on watercolor paper. So yeah, I'm probably just gonna do a time lapse of it and make a couple of TikToks too. Again, I don't really have a process and I kind of just wing these things and go with it for entertainment purposes again only, but come along with me. Well, hello, it's voiceover Sydney Rose now. So when I was explaining everything about how I was collecting blood, I didn't really do a great job of it while I was actually filming the video. I don't know what it is about the camera and how I can think more straight when I'm doing a voiceover, even though I'm really winging voiceovers because I don't really make a script for these things. But I did want to say, every time I did collect blood, I cleaned everything thoroughly. I cleaned the bottle, I cleaned my skin, so it was just like if I got a random cut here or there. And again, it was very watered down as well, so it didn't take as much as you would think it would, but please do not attempt to replicate this. I was very safe about it and I was clean, and it can be really dangerous to do something like this if you're not well versed or doing something maybe unsafely. So definitely, if you ever want to paint with blood, just make sure you're doing it a safe way, but I do not recommend this. Do not do what I did. And I guess to talk about my artistic process a little bit, I decided to do a transfer because I really wanted to focus on being able to make the paint super clean and concise, and if I had a lot of erase marks from a grid or trying to measure out a normal portrait, all the portrait techniques, I would have had a lot more erase marks on the watercolor paper, so I decided that the transfer was the best way to go. If you guys ever want a video on like how to do a transfer, let me know. It is a super easy process and it's really convenient for things like this, like if you want to create less lines. Obviously, drawing a portrait with grid is more ideal for the artistic process, but I wanted to focus on the painting for this one, so that's why I did the transfer the way I did. Also, I'm recording in a different space than normal, and I'm still using my microphone, but I still feel like there's a lot of feedback, so apologies for the audio being a little bit off. But like I said, I'm still using my microphone. I really haven't figured out a lot of stuff with audio yet, and I'm still just, it's a learning curve. But yeah, apologies for that weird little feedback noise. I'm not sure. It's a different room in a different space than normal because I didn't have access to my normal recording space this time. So painting with my own blood is something that I've wanted to do for years, and I just never really had the time or the opportunity, didn't really do much of the research to actually do it. And since I've been taking social media and my art more seriously lately with my business and my online presence, I thought no time like the present, right? So I did a lot of research and I found a lot of inspiration through some TikTok videos, some YouTube videos, and I will definitely link all of those in the description below. All of these artists are absolutely amazing, and again, they did it safely, so make sure you're being safe if you ever try to replicate this, but I do not recommend replicating this. I'll probably say that like 2 or 3 more times in the video, there's no telling, but they were all absolutely amazing, and I'll link those below, so definitely check those out if you're interested in this type of content, and subscribe to me if you're interested in this type of content, because I definitely do plan on doing more blood portraits in the future. I'm not sure how the YouTube videos will look, if it'll be a similar layout to this, or if I'll try something different, but you never know. So subscribe, and then you can join the madness and the craziness of my channel, of just the randomness of my life and my art. I think we're pretty fun here, so yeah, you should do that. You should subscribe. Go do it now. I know you want to. And to explain a little bit more of my artistic process here, I did the transfer and then I decided to outline everything with Sharpie. I usually do this with watercolor at first anyway, but I'm usually outlining it in black, and that way I can just see the lines better, and it helps me personally with watercolor portraits. And since this is similar to watercolor, this is how I did it. But this time I did it in red to match the blood more, and I will say, obviously the blood dries a little bit more of a garnet brown tone, but I think the red outlines really helped it stand out, and the darker I get, the more they blended in with the actual portrait. When I first started this, you can see that it was super light, and I ended up having to do a lot of layers to get the colors that I wanted, but I do go more into that later in the video. But first, starting off, I was a little bit nervous about the red outlines, but I did outline just the parts where I wouldn't have the highlights. I kept the highlights in the pencil line so they weren't super obvious with the color change in my hair, just trying to get those values right with the texture and using smaller brushes. I definitely need to figure out how to do artist talk. It's a little bit differently, but if you're an artist, you know what I mean. You know the process, and I'll get better explaining eventually, but see, you can see where I'm layering here, and I'll go back in with a smaller brush later to actually make those details. Not getting as dark as I thought it would, and I know I'll probably be talking over the time lapse, but it's not getting as dark as I thought, so I'm trying to kind of like layer it, but right now I'm letting it dry in between. So my darkest part is obviously going to be my hair, and I would like it to be a little bit more, I don't know, but we'll see. I'm gonna see what layering it will do, but I'm liking how it's turning out so far. It is a lot streakier than like regular watercolor paint, but it's definitely a learning process. I think next time I'll definitely collect more blood before I decide to do a painting. But in my research, a lot of the people said that they were having issues with the blood clumping up, and that you really needed to dilute it with water so it would be more able to be like a paint instead of just clumping up. But I think if I do a different ratio, maybe more blood to less water, I can still get that effect and it will be darker. But you can see where I've been layering and layering and layering, trying to get it to get darker and darker. Did pretty good, but it's taking a lot longer than I thought, so chocolate strawberry break. And there's some more ASMR for you. Maybe I should be one of those like mukbang bang, however you say it, channels. Just kidding, that's a terrible idea. I would never do that. I will tell you guys if I like food or I don't like food, but not my vibe. I'm just an artist and somebody who makes random videos, so I guess never say never. But you can see where I gave up on letting it dry naturally here, and I just started using the hairdryer to dry it in between, and I just kept layering and layering over the hair to getting it as dark as possible to get that color I really desired for this piece. And the reason I focused so intensely on the hair at first was because I wanted to be able to get the hair values first, because always in portraits, this is how I do it. I like to start with the darkest part of the portrait so I can get a better idea of how the values are supposed to look everywhere else. So once I kind of got to where I wanted with the hair, I started doing the values on my skin and in my shirt, but you'll see later, I do go back to the hair later because I still wanted it to be darker. That was like my main issue for this, was that I really wanted it to be as dark as possible for my hair. And I know I wasn't going to get my hair to be black, but I still wanted it to be like a deep blood color, and the blood, the way it dried, just wasn't necessarily giving me what I wanted until I did all of the layers. So the watercolor palettes I usually use are Koi or Meeden because they were a sponsor from my TikTok, and I actually really do like it, but that's more of a dyed palette rather than a pigment palette like the Koi. So you know, like, if you don't use a lot of water with those, you can get super pigmented colors. And so with the blood, I had already watered it down to make it into paint, but I wasn't getting as much of the bright pigments as I would like. So that's why I ended up having to layer it a ton. And you can see I started doing a background, trying to do some cool little funky patterns with the back, and I was just kind of vibing with it. But back in the hair, I was trying to get more with the shadows, getting it darker around my face and where those values were at, and then adding more to the blood drops I did with my makeup from this actual selfie. I'm definitely at the point where I kind of stopped doing the time lapse because it was just going to be the same thing over and over again. I'm just doing layers on layers to make it darker and more opaque, and especially bring out those shadows. It's a little bit more difficult to just be working with, you know, one color. I've tried different colors of watercolor before, so this is kind of under that same preface of you're working with one color, you dilute it to make it lighter, and you don't dilute it to make it darker. So I'm going over layer by layer by layer, over and over, and drying it with a hairdryer to make it darker, especially where my hair is at. But I'm really liking how it's turning out so far. I'm gonna let it dry without the hairdryer so it's more natural, and then I'm probably gonna go back over some spots in the red Sharpie for my outlines. But I love it so far, and I did some like little splatters too. And after what felt like a million layers, I was finally able to achieve the color that I wanted for this piece. I think it looks so good, like that just dark blood color. And of course I went back over with the Sharpie in a few different places just to bring out those details again, maybe blend it into the actual blood a little bit better. I almost said watercolor, but it's blood. Painted with blood, not watercolor. But again, it was very similar, I will say. It's just a matter of pigments, so I'll probably just try to experiment with the ratios in the future, and you know, I'll make videos for that, so make sure you stay tuned. I'm going to tell you to subscribe again, so subscribe because I know you want to, and I want you to too. We are done. Look how cool it turned out. It took me about 6 hours, but I am absolutely obsessed with the details, and I'll take better pictures and put them in the video as well. But I'm so happy at how this turned out, and I honestly cannot wait to do more blood portraits in the future for sure. And I edit with iMovie, so it's kind of hard to put a full picture in here without having those weird black lines on the side. So I'm just going to go back and forth between the pictures I took. I edited them and put a little bit different saturation on some of these, so some of them look darker versus lighter. Which ones do you guys like the best? Like, let me know in the comments how you like the edited pictures versus the ones that aren't as edited. But I'm super proud of how this turned out, and I cannot wait to be able to do one of these again. And now it's time for bloopers, because I had a lot for this video. Fall apart. I don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable by my it's starting to fall apart. Like, sometimes I catch myself using my customer service video voice, or customer service voice in these videos, so this will also be in the blooper reel. So, beep to the blooper reel. Hi. Well, okay. I got a ring light from my TikTok in my new building that I can't get it to turn around for. Here we go. I'm still kind of stabilizing it. Maybe in the bloopers? Yeah, bloopers. But thank you so much for watching this. I'm editing this 2 weeks before it'll come out, so maybe by that time I'll have 500 subscribers. If not, oh well, but thank you guys so much for watching. If you like my content, please subscribe. Bye!